We found that what we really wanted was a cohort of faculty who would be using the same pedagogy, the same community engagement kind of service learning pedagogy, so that they could support one another and help one another, and that they could talk across disciplines, and so what we asked the dean for some money, and he very kindly, gave us some budget to be able to put together a program of fellows who would be appointed for a year. And in that year, they would apply with a project, a course they were thinking about developing, or some community-based research they were looking at. They spend the first semester in readings, thinking about community partners, thinking about course development, different goals for their courses, and that kind of thing. And thinking about service itself, how we help our students think about the power dynamics involved in service, what it means to leave the somewhat privileged world of St. Norbert College to other worlds that you're entering, and what that transition means, and how to help students make that transition. And then how to ground that in your academic field of study that you're working on. First semester, so we have dinners and discussions for 3 times. Then in the middle we do service together, so we've gone to a soup kitchen and served a meal together, and then talked about how we would build something like that, not necessarily that exact activity, but into our courses. How would we have our students think analytically about their own service and put it in the context of their learning in the classroom. And then second semester is what I think of as action. So that's when the faculty workshop their different assignments for their classes, think about what kind of community partners they might want to work with. It's kind of the nuts and bolts time. We work with them very closely on that. They also workshop their syllabi, and then they present to the group what their course is going to look like. Well, it's interesting. When I was in graduate school, I was studying literary theory, which is about as removed from the real world as a person can be. But I also have a background in having done some postgraduate service myself. I spent a year with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps working with migrant farm workers. And that experience, while probably one of the most challenging experiences of my entire life, I came into it as a sort of fresh scrubbed college student, ready to save the world, with my English degree. And I happened to speak Spanish, so they put me in this particular position. And that experience really formed who I am, that I did something that was really challenging to me, that was really, in many ways, beyond my skill level. But it helped me kind of find a place in the world. It helped me see who I was and what I valued, what I was good at, what I wasn't as good at, frankly. It turned out I was not going to go into social work, for example. That helped me see that year of service. But it also helped me see that while I found grant writing difficult to do, I actually had some skill at it. That experience, and then I went to graduate school and studied things like literary theory, which is how we interpret texts and think about them in the world of ideas. But then I thought, how can I marry these two worlds that are very meaningful to me? That I think literature, from my field, talks about human experience and human suffering and human joys, and poetry and plays and short stories kind of tell us who we are as a people. And yet, I wanted to see that in the real world too. How do people outside the college bubble tell their stories? So for me, those questions were coming together as I was leaving graduate school, and I thought I'd love to develop a course that was in a classroom but that engaged in the world beyond the classroom, so that it had kind of the walls of the classroom would break down a little bit, and that we would learn from our community partners, and our community partners would learn from us, and that it would be a shared learning experience. And so that's when I first developed my course called The Literature of Service. And as I was interviewing for jobs, looking for jobs after graduate school, I talked about this course I wanted to develop, and St. Norbert was very interested in me doing this kind of a course. So that's how I first kind of developed the course. And then out of that, eventually helped develop, other faculty putting together courses themselves.